This is KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guest today, our independent film producer, John Richard. John, welcome. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
And Carey, Bostian, who is familiar to us as a member and principal of Cedar Chamber Music. Nice to see you, Carey.
Thanks for having us.
Of course, you were here a few weeks ago, and we were talking about the conclusion of the Red Cedar season, but you're kind of in the bonus.
In the bonus time, that's right. We have an ongoing project with the Brinton Silent Film Collection. We originally produced this in the spring of 2015. It's something we've been working on since 2013. We had a terrific success. Since the spring of 2015, we've done a couple of events bringing this great collection of early entertainment materials to the public all over the state. And just recently, the Johnson County Historical Society has decided to present Michael Zahs, who is the owner of these entertainment materials, in a series of lectures and performances. They've done that in part because of the significance of the collection, but also because there's a documentary, a full-length documentary being released very soon called Saving Brinton, which is all about Michael Zahs in this collection. So we're doing a show which is very similar to what we did in 2015 with Cedar Chamber Music that highlights these films and presents them in sort of an original context with live chamber music.
And this actually predates you and Mira's taking over at Red Cedar, and in fact, the concert will feature the original Red Cedar Trio.
It is the Red Cedar Trio,
with founders
Boland,
John and Jan and you,
and John Dowdall and Carey Bostian on the cello. Actually, we play about 23 different instruments, and I've decided to list them in the program this time. You know, with the location where they were made. So it's everything from a cello made in Italy before 1622 to rocks from New Hampshire and a trombone kazoo from West Music.
So it's less the Red Cedar Trio and more the Red Cedar Big Band.
We're Foley artists.
We're three at a time.
We're early music Foley artists. Yeah.
So before and John, you're here because you were involved. You were involved in the shooting and the cinematography on the documentary. But before we talk about that, and I think that this creates a great opportunity to talk to someone who is involved in filmmaking about some of the earliest moving pictures that were ever created in the entire world. And I know that you've studied the history of this. So if you would, remind us, because we've talked about this project in the past here on the Culture Crawl, but remind us, how these films came about.
Well, these are literally some of the earliest films in the world. Frank Brinton was giving road shows with illustrated lectures, magic lantern slides, and things like that before movies even existed. As far back as the 1880s. The films themselves came from either Pathé in Paris or from Edison Films in Philadelphia. And
when we say Edison, we do mean Thomas Edison, the inventor of the movie camera.
That's somewhat in dispute, but he certainly would have said that.
Yeah, yes, and he did, I think, regularly.
But there's a wide range of films. Some of the earliest are sort of actualities, or what we might refer to now as nonfiction. They're simply a static shot of something like a train arriving at a station, or an elephant, or something from the zoo. We have one sort of disturbing and funny image of a horse jumping off a diving board. And there are also trick films. Some of the films were made by Georges Méliès or a Spaniard named Segundo de Chimón, and they were the first people to do special effects in movies. Méliès was the first to realize that if you started recording on your camera and then paused it and then moved things around in front of the camera, that you could start recording again, and when you played it back, it would appear and disappear from the frame.
The original stop-motion photography.
Yeah, and the earliest special effects. There's such a wide range of film. I think there's about 5 hours in total. About 30 minutes of them actually were hand-colored. Those are one-of-a-kind works of art in a way, since each individual frame Each part of the frame had to be hand colored individually. So the collection really runs the gamut from narrative shorts to actualities to even some of the earliest footage of the Galveston hurricane.
And was William Brinton?
William Franklin Brinton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was he from Iowa? How did we end up with this stuff here?
Some of the stories, lost to history, but Frank Brinton did I think grow up in Washington, and
Washington, Iowa.
Washington, Iowa. He actually got his start giving shows because his father, Jonathan, had been told by God that he needed to start a hotel in Jerusalem, and he went over to the Holy Land to do that and didn't come back. So when Frank went to look for him, he, in doing so, traveled the world and came back with all sorts of artifacts and pictures and stories from the Holy Land that began were the beginning really of his traveling showman career.
And then he hosted travelogues, because in the days before movies and films, people never, might see illustrations or rough pictures in newspapers, but this was an opportunity for people to see mainly still pictures at this point, although the film, but then later the films of places overseas.
Yeah, and photography was still new at this point, so to see moving images, especially projected large, would have been an incredible experience. That's some of what we're trying to capture, I think, in our film is in bringing this story to modern audiences, just give them some sort of tiny taste of what it might have been like to see that for the first time.
Talking with John Richard and Carey Bostian about the Brinton Film Project, which has several moving parts. Before we talk again about the concert, tell me just a little bit about the documentary, because these films came into the possession of historian Michael Zahs, who is from from this part of Iowa, and you all spent quite a bit of time with him as he's been working with and showing and preserving and studying these films.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an incredible journey that's lasted about 3 years, just following Mike as he and we really, as a team, sort of discovered what these films were all about, made discoveries about the significance of them. We spent hours doing research just trying to identify the films. But the film took on more significance than the films as we realized that I think there were themes of just sort of history and our relationship to history and our relationship to objects that were as important as the films and were really only were accessible through Mike's character. Mike has many different collections, among them I think the largest collection of nativity sets, the largest collection of feed sacks, a lot of incredible collections, and his relationship to the past is really interesting. The film has been completed. It's 87 minutes long, and we're going to premiere it out in Washington, D.C. at the American Film Institute Documentary Film Festival on June 17th and 18th.
Wow, congratulations. I assume that's a pretty prestigious
we were really excited
festival
about that.
to be premiering this at.
Definitely, and I think it'll do really well there, and then we're hoping we haven't made all of our plans yet, but we're definitely going to bring it back to Iowa for some marquee events. And then what we'd like to do is take it around the state and around the Midwest and hopefully around the country, perhaps with Mike and the original projector that the Brintons used, which we can also show 35 millimeter films on in addition to our documentary.
Oh, really? So that on the original projector, you can still do that. Wow, it's still, yeah. Well, speaking of those original pictures, that brings us back to the event coming up on May 19th, which again will feature the Red Cedar Trio and Michael and these original films.
Tremendous films. It's at 8 p.m. at the Englert Theatre. Tickets are available at englert.org. There's two things. Frank Brinton was a dreamer and an educator. And Michael Zahs taught for 39 years science and Iowa history in Washington, Iowa. And this has been his dream for 30 years, to try and bring this collection to the public. So, it's a privilege to be able to work with him as Red Cedar Chamber Music. But University of Iowa Special Collections, Johnson County Historical Society, Humanities Iowa, the Library of Congress. I could go on. Of all the people, and really people around the world, that have helped to bring this whole project, which is so much greater than any one of the entities that are involved, to the public.
John and Carey, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank
and good
you,
luck
Dennis.
with the event.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.